Hey everyone, Leanne here from Kingdom Bloggers. So today I want to talk about a really important issue that many Christian bloggers face. And even if you don't consider yourself a Christian blogger, you're just trying to jump into this blogging stuff in general. The issue of physical and mental health. Those of you who may struggle with chronic health issues or chronic mental health issues, and your ability to actually succeed in this kind of climate, or not climate, but in this world, right? And I see a lot of people like in the different groups that either I manage or that I follow. And one of the common things that I hear people talking about is, well, my physical, my chronic health prevents me from, or, because of my mental health, I can't do this or that. And so I just want to share my own struggles and journey with you because I think it's really important. One, that we are all transparent with our internal struggles because when we hide them, nothing good comes of that, right? And I learned that a long time ago. And also by us sharing our own struggles in these specific areas, that it will also maybe encourage others who are in the place of struggle right now. So, just a little background on myself. So, many of you may not know this. Some of you do because I've talked about it openly, but it's just never a hey, let's talk about mental health today kind of thing that we do in our groups, right? But so I'm going on 50. I'll be 50 next year. I'm medically retired from the military. And so, just to give you a preface of where I started until now, so I was actually medically retired at 18 years from the military. I have general anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, PTSD, ADHD. I'm basically an alphabet soup, okay? And many people see me today and they're like, yeah, I totally never would have guessed that. And that's kind of the point. I've learned. Now, at one point, I did sort of project my issues, right? In other words, like when people met me, it was very evident of the struggles I was going through. And I did not like living that way. And so it didn't happen overnight through my faith, getting closer to God and really diving deep into a lot of different things. I learned to kind of reframe my mindset around what I originally perceived as issues and struggles to really calling them obstacles. And I like a challenge. I like to overcome obstacles. And so that's kind of how I am today. So yes, through my military time, a lot of things that I'm not going to go into, but just even from my childhood, um, you know, struggling with sexual abuse, alcoholism in my family, and just a whole bunch of other Jerry Springer episode stuff. And then some of the abuses and things that I had to deal with in the military. Um, that led to my major depression. That led to literally me being a social kind of reject. Like social anxiety was huge for me. And I know many of you may not believe that because like now everyone coming to this group sees me as this, like, I just talk, like I just never shut up. Right. But that wasn't always the case. I fell into a deep depression, recluse myself from everybody, and that further into depression. And then also you add the PTSD element to it from my time in the military. And it was horrible. I actually have two suicide attempts. Fortunately, they were attempts, not successful. I battled drug addiction. Not really, I mean, I did recreational drugs pre military, but prescription, not abuse, but addiction from being prescribed medications, and then all of the additional things that came from that. And anyone who's been down that route knows what I'm talking about. And so, you know, 10, 12 years ago, I was literally the definition of a hot mess. Okay. And on top of the mental health, I part of my retirement from the military, my medical retirement, in addition to all the alphabet stuff, I have severe migraines, like 4 to 5 a week at the time. And they were very debilitating. They impacted my ability to actually get a job after the military. And actually, the jobs I did get, it resulted in me having to leave those jobs. And so, a lot of that's what led me to do this online work for myself at my own hours kind of thing. So, migraines debilitating migraines, not just a headache. So those of you who struggle with migraines, I feel your pain. And then about a year or so after I got out of the military, I started having a lot of lower back issues, like really debilitating, and found out I have degenerative discs in my lower back. And like the discs are just totally barely even there anymore. And, now I'm getting older, so arthritis and just all the things, right? So, all that to say is I can totally relate to chronic illness, physical chronic illness, as well as chronic mental health. And so I wanted to share some of the things that I've found and how to, cope with them, I guess, and how to utilize some of that to make your blogging journeys more successful. Like use it as a tool here. And so, number one, for Christian bloggers specifically, just know that the enemy is definitely going to use what you deem a weakness, right? Any weaknesses that we have, whether real or perceived, the enemy is going to hone in on them and use them to the best of his ability. And our physical and mental health is definitely one of those, because aside from the pain and the crazy train, I can totally say crazy train because I've ridden it. And so those of you people who've never ridden it don't get to use that word, but it is what it is. So and then just the pain, and like I can't, and that became my montage for a while. I just can't because my migraines. I can't because of my back. And just to put my back in perspective, I could barely even go to the grocery store at one point, and go down one aisle in the grocery store to buy groceries, without basically just dying, right? I would literally be riding my basket. And then when I go to the checkout aisle, if there was like anybody in front of me, I would just sit Indian style on the floor with my basket and then sort of do the butt scrunch in line until it was my turn, because I just could not stand. At that time, I'm like, I don't even care what people think. I'm in pain. And so I did get some physical relief from the pain, with some injections and some other things that I do. But back to my point, see, the ADHD is really, I get off on tangents sometimes. My focus was my pain. My focus at that time, I kept my eyes on the struggle. I kept my eyes on what I perceived I can't do. And because I focused on the can't, that, like, where your focus flows, energy goes, right? Or I think that's how it said, where you put your focus, that is where you are going to see fruit or not, right? And if you're focusing on that I can't do something because of, you know, then you're not. Like what we like, you speak it and it is, right? And so when you speak that negativity right out the door, then the result of that is negativity. It's nothing, right? It's not what you're wanting for. And so eventually I got to the point of, I have learned to manage. So nobody's ever healed of mental health, any of the alphabets. Nobody is ever healed from it. But you learn to cope. You learn to manage the symptoms and triggers and things like that. And so I'm in a place now that I've really gotten good at doing that. And so, but the one thing that has kept me going forward is taken two little symbols off of that word can't, the apostrophe and the T, right? To I can, right? And so anything before then is like, I can't do this, because I refocused it to, I might not be able to do it that way, but I can do it this way. And look, y'all, I know that's easier for me to say it and then it is for you to implement it, because it took me several years to actually retrain my brain's way of thinking and processing things. And so my migraines have kind of got under control. I'm not going to go into the details of how, just because certain trigger words on here could make YouTube mad, and I don't want to risk impacting my channel. I'd be happy to talk with you offline about it if you want to know. I still get them, but I've learned to manage them. And so I've also learned to work within my boundaries, things that, I don't want to say things I can't do, but things that are more of a struggle, I figure out a different way to do it. And maybe that's doing less of something, maybe it's doing it a different way, or whatever. But the number one thing is you have to learn to manage yourself, right? Like, even if you become the I can kind of person, you have to also know what your limits are, because the limits, when you exceed the limits, when you exceed your boundaries that you've set, that's when the overwhelm starts triggering all those other things again. If you have physical disabilities, so y'all may know Wendy from One Exceptional Life. Like, I challenge anybody with a physical limitation in your mind. I don't see limitations, it's just not a word I normally use, but it's a word everyone recognizes. So that's why I'm using it here. Anyone with physical limitations or perceived physical limitations, go follow Wendy. Wendy got flesh eating bacteria. She has no hands, and she was amputated both hands and below the knee, I believe. So she's a quadruple amputee, and she's a blogger, right? Like, literally, she is killing it, and she's doing different things. She got creative. She might not be able to do all the things that I can do, so she figured out how to do them within her abilities, right? And she's doing amazing. And so that's a very good example of the physical limitations. And I know everyone's limitations, again, perceived. I don't even like the word disability. Um, in your mind is what's limiting you. You see the thing, and the thing is not like everybody else's thing. And so, because it's not like everyone else, you assume you can't do what everyone else does. Well, number one, we're not supposed to be like everyone else. We're supposed to be ourselves, be unique, and be unique in our own abilities. And so, yeah, there's kind of that. But we are basing our ability off a model of someone else that is simply not built the way we are, right? And so when we get out of that mindset and just start focusing on what you can do, you can do amazing things. Because if you're here, like, watching this video, it's because God put a calling on your heart, a calling to share the gospel in the online realm. But he didn't say you had to do it like me. He didn't say you had to do it like Wendy. He didn't say you had to do it like any of the other people that you may know. And so, if you're, again, struggling with any of these things we've talked about, and you feel you can't do it, because figure out, I can't do it this way, but I can do it that way. And so that is just what I want to encourage you with. And I'll be honest, y'all, it's not like I make this stuff look easy, but I've trained my brain that way, right? It took many years, because I was a kind of Debbie Downer for a few years. When I was at just the lowest point, I was like, y'all probably wouldn't believe that now, because I'm just like, oozing with happiness and positivity. I wasn't always like that. There was a very dark time in my life, and I swore to myself I would never go back there. And so I don't want to say I put on this fake persona, because it's not. I truly am content with things, but I also know when to recognize my limits and my boundaries, and when they're about to be exceeded or triggered, or however you want to say it. And so I focus every ounce of energy I have into positive things, into looking at every obstacle as a challenge that I will overcome, however that looks. I never look at anything with a negative kind of thought, like, I'm never going to do this. I never do that, right? I never say never. I look at everything as a challenge, and I am a person who likes to be challenged. And so there is no mountain too high for me, because I know God's on my side. And what I was saying before is, if you're watching this particular video, you've ended up on my channel and my Facebook group, it's because God has called you to something bigger in this virtual online world. And so if he put that calling on your heart, especially if you are someone who struggles with any of these things, it's because he wants you to own that thing and use it for his glory, and also to encourage others who struggle with those things, like me here talking about all these things today. I don't talk about them with a, yes, me. This is, I don't do that ever, because I like parties. I don't like pity parties. And so, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone who's in a low point, because I was there myself, but that was a party I could not wait to get out of, and literally never return to. And so I don't say it in a mocking kind of way, but I'm saying a pity party for your situation, your circumstance, is never going to be fruitful. And if God called you to do something, your obedience is expected. And that obedience is to do what you have to do to be able to fulfill the calling that He has given you. And so, whether it's mental health, whether it's physical ailments, chronic illness, whatever it is, I just want you to dig deep and figure out what you can do, because we can all do something. And chances are that something's not going to look like what everyone else is doing. And that's the point, because doing what everybody else is doing is overrated. You have to get creative, um, and use all the resources God has given you, and come up with other ways, right? Because we need more ways to share the gospel. Like, there's so many things are just changing all the time. And so your creativity and your desire to be obedient to God's calling is what's going to set you apart. And so anyway, I just really, I don't know, I had a message on one of my YouTube videos this morning, and then I've had just in this past week seeing different comments in different groups, and it related to, illness and mental and physical, limitations, disabilities. And I don't use those words in my normal description of myself. I have had mental health struggles, had, right? But I'm not living in the present of a limitation, because limitations in the word, it's limiting. And I don't like to be limited, because I know God has great things great things planned for me. Sorry, I can't speak. And He has great things planned for you. So again, I don't want to minimize anything that you're going through, but I've been through a lot myself. And so these are the mindset. It's all up here, guys. The mindset of how you approach everything. That is going to determine your success. That is going to determine your ability to overcome. Like, and I don't even like the word survivor. Survivor means, to me, victim. And I don't like that. I'm an overcomer, right? I've overcome. I have dominated. I have, those are the words I like a challenge that I willingly go into and accept and win. That's where a survivor to me is someone who was like really struggling, and they came out, but just barely. I don't like that mindset. And so, that's just what okay, now I'm feeling like I'm talking in circles. Sorry. This is a really passionate topic for me because of everything I've been through in my life. And so I just want to encourage you with that. Stop saying can't and start saying can, and you will be amazed at the things that God has planned for your future. All right, guys. I hope this was helpful. Like this video if you agree. Leave me some comments. Share with me your own struggles, and things that you have, how you've overcome some of them, or things that you're doing to mitigate or manage wherever you are, whether it's mental or physical. I would love to know, because the more of us that can share these stories in a positive way, not a woe is me kind of way. I am not a woe is me kind of person. The more we can share it in a positive light and encouraging, then more people will see what is truly possible when they reframe their mindset. So, all right. Bye, guys. Love you. God bless.